Good afternoon, everyone. Well, welcome to our Spotlight session, Leading Significant Sustainable Change. And I'm thrilled today to highlight our Leah Meyer Austin Award winners. I'm Mary Harrell. I'm an Associate Director of Programs with Achieving the Dream. And I'll be moderating this session, and we're going to be hearing more about the stories of these colleges. We began the stories Tuesday evening at the awards ceremony, and today I'm really thrilled that we're going to be able to hear more about the work they've been able to do to transform their institutions. The Leah Meyer Austin Award, it recognizes excellence in community colleges in the way they're transforming how they're organized, how they're transforming how they interact with students, how they're transforming the classroom experience. And Patrick Henry College in Baltimore, the Community College of Baltimore County, they exemplify everything that we value in the ATD network. And we have the 5 principles that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, right? So these colleges, they have the committed leadership at all levels of the college that's keenly focused on student success. They have engaged the broad range of stakeholders on their community college campus as well as within their community as well. They have an intense focus on using data and evidence to shape the interventions that they use in their classrooms and support students inside and outside the classrooms. They have an explicit commitment to equity. So they ensure that not only that the students feel welcome on the campus, but that the students receive the instructional and social supports they need in order to be able to be successful. And they focus on effecting systemic change. And I think to that last point, you're going to see the stories from these colleges that they're not tinkering at the edges of student success, but they are engaging and changing in fundamental ways the way that they do business on the college campus. And as John Mutz highlighted as well Tuesday evening, that while this year's winners, they're very different colleges, they are focusing their transformations on the heart of the college, the classroom. And I wanted to talk just for a minute about this because we're thrilled to highlight these colleges particularly because of their work in this area. You know, in many cases, I think in higher education, we set up faculty to fail at teaching, right? There is no common consensus across higher education about what quality teaching looks like, let alone on individual campuses that we have this sort of common vision. We have no common understanding about how students learn, and we have too little professional development to help faculty gain the skills, the knowledge, the dispositions they need to be as effective in the classroom as they can be. But CCBC and Patrick Henry, they're taking on this void. And they're trying to engage faculty, and they're trying to engage their faculty across the whole college in this work. And as Carol Lincoln mentioned yesterday morning in her remarks, you know, Achieving the Dream is deeply interested in this particular dimension of institutional change. We're really interested in learning from the winners this year, as well as from all of you in our network, about how you're changing teaching and learning on your campuses. So I hope you were able to attend some of our sessions yesterday for our Teaching and Learning Institute, and if you did, you may have attended CCBC and Patrick Henry's sessions there, as well as many other practitioners who were leading those sessions. But today we'll talk about that as well as the whole institutional change story at these colleges. We've set it up so that we'll hear from CCBC first and then Patrick Henry, and we're going to have time at the end of the session to take questions from all of you as well. So we'll start with CCBC. They're going to present first. As you know, this is a very large urban college which serves which serves a very diverse population. And as you can tell from Dr. Curtin-Knights' remarks the other evening, no stone's been left unturned at this college in terms of trying to transform the student experience. So I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Curtin-Knights as well as Dr. McCulloch, who is the Vice President of Instruction at CCBC, to come share your stories with us.
Thank you very much. Well, it's great to see you again, and we're still basking in the glory of being award winners, and I'm sure our Patrick Henry colleagues are too, but happy to share our story because it's not always an easy one. So with me, actually, is our great academic officer, Dr. Mark McCulloch. I'm going to give you a little flavor of who we are, and then he'll talk about the specifics of our agenda. So I'll start with this. You just heard the description of one of the key components being organizational change. Well, imagine if you had 3 colleges instead of 1, and by 3, I mean we used to be 3. And about 15 years ago, we were brought kicking and screaming into being 1. Nobody was happy, but and we weren't part of that, by the way. So here we are now. We are actually the largest community college in the state of Maryland, and we know that we now have the power of 1 that was built upon the culture, the traditions, and the wonderful instruction of the 3. So I'm going to quickly show you a 1-minute video that I think captures our college spirit, and I bet you'll see yourself in it. No words, just drums. Well, that's who we are, and today we are also very proud of the fact that we have come together. We are now a college in fighting trim, and we have worked very hard, actually, not only to be worthy of the award we won on Tuesday evening, but we're focused a lot on all the things we need to do and enjoy the accolades that come with that. We are actually in the 3rd largest county of Maryland, and as you can see from those statistics, we have a highly well-educated population, and we have really a very uneducated population. We serve all of those. Those little blue and orange green stars show you, I mean, we're a huge institution with 6 different sites. Our stats are probably similar to many of yours. Perhaps we're a little larger than some, or maybe even than most, but you can see yourself, I would bet. Some of you will have more high school students coming in the door. Some of you perhaps are more like us. Some of you will have more full-time, less part-time. But these are the statistics, these are the demographics that drive the work that we have done. And in a very real way, what we're trying to do is reach the population that we serve, not some imaginary or fictitious population that people think of as community colleges. These are the premises that drive everything that we do, and you notice if you crisscross them, one of those sets is more about student success and the emphasis we place on that. And as I said to you the other day, that we're very clear about the fact that the most important person on the campus is the student, and we work very hard, all of us together, to help each student achieve the success that's right for him or her. But the other thing I want to point out is that we're very focused on our college as a workforce engine for our region. And I know that that's true of all of you, and we are a comprehensive community college, which means we train poets and actors and writers as much as we train engineers, nurses, and welders. We do all of those things under a huge umbrella that pretty much says our educational agenda has to be an economic agenda. This is the symbol we use to more or less describe that one open door, that the magic of that open door mission, which leads people to any number of doorways where they can work on degrees, certificates, workplace certification, or prepare for transfer. And this is, I think, what we are proudest of. We were very pleased to be acknowledged on Tuesday because of the great work that our folks have done in increasing our completion. But we also believe, and we love this phrase, community colleges count, but we also believe that if community colleges count, then you must count everything that we do. And you can see that in a given year, this was last year, 18,098 CCBC students achieved some completion goal. And the one item at the bottom that we're most proud of, I'm not sure you can all see that, but 95% of our graduates will remain to live and work right within our communities. I bet that's true for most of you as well. And what that means is that 95% of our students will get jobs, buy houses, pay taxes, send their kids to local schools, join the PTA, and become a part of a group of people who strengthen their communities. We have the same challenges that all of you have. Just because we're bigger doesn't mean we have more challenges. It is true that we all face those kinds of issues every single day as we try to do the good work that we do at every institution. And so, because of those demographics that I showed you, because of how precious to us the Open Door mission is, we actually, as we became an Achieving the Dream college, we actually formulated something that we called Student Success 101, and Dr. McCulloch in 1 minute is going to talk to you about those 4 key components of a very aggressive, action-oriented Achieving the Dream agenda. And I know we'll have time, or I think we'll have time at the end where we can talk a little more about this, but I think what we're aware of is that in order to do the work that we have done, we actually have had to bring together all of these components. And I know we all say, you know, leadership matters, but I think one of the things we recognize is that leadership at every level matters. And at every level, it's both leadership and fellowship. And you just keep cycling that around if you actually want to make the kind of progress that we are proud to say that we have made. So with that, I'm going to invite Dr. McCulloch to take up from there and talk to you more specifically about what we've done and how we've done it and those things we had to do.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's always nice to have the president warm up the crowd for me. She's really expert at that. But it actually works more like it's the Tonight Show or Jimmy Kimmel, and they have the main guest on right after the monologue, and you're further down in the green room. You come on a little later. Anyway, what I want to do is talk about the specifics of the 4 initiatives that were our main components of Student Success 101. And we call it Student Success 101 because we're not resting on our laurels, and for the last year or so we've been engaged in Student Success 102 to try to take these things forward. But our first thing, and probably the thing which across the country CCBC is most known for, is our accelerated developmental education work. We've had nearly about 80% of our incoming students placed into developmental education. That's fluctuated a little bit over the last 5 or 6 years between about 75% and 81%, but typically about 4 out of 5 of our incoming students come in for dev ed, needing dev ed. And of course, almost no students come to the community college so that they can get dev ed. They come to do something else, and they need to move through dev ed and successfully so that they can achieve their goals. And so we've been at the heart of accelerating developmental education. You could call it the co-requisite model. We think it's a lot more sophisticated than that. And we've gone in the 3 main disciplines that Maryland requires: math, reading, and English. We've had acceleration methodologies in all 3 of those. The first, the one that we launched first, and the one that's the most famous, is our accelerated learning program in English, the ALP program, and that has succeeded in doubling the number of students who had been placed into developmental, who successfully completed the target class of English 101. It's doubled. We've got a lot of longitudinal data on that now. It's doubled the number of people in that target group that get through English 102, and it's increased the number from that initial target group of developmental students. The number that graduate hasn't quite doubled it, but it's increased it by about 75 to 80% that have held up semester after semester. The next one that we moved into operation was our math program, the AMP program, the Accelerated Math Program. That we've tinkered with that a little bit, but that works pretty much the same way. There we combine, as the target courses, 2 different ones. We combine pre-algebra and elementary algebra, and then we let them take intermediate algebra on their own, but then we combine, elementary algebra on their own, and then we combine intermediate algebra and college algebra together. There, too, we have succeeded in doubling the number of students originally placed in the lower level of remediation who successfully make it through to the target class. The longitudinal data on that is not quite as robust, but we've seen about a 75% increase in graduation rate with those target students as well. And the youngest of the three siblings in our acceleration is our accelerated learning program. This is for students that are double placed in developmental ed with English and with reading, and it includes students who are placed at the lowest levels of developmental education. These are, of course, students at the greatest risk. And what we've seen with this group over the last 3 years that we've had this program in operation is about a 60% increase in the percentage of those students, the number of those students that successfully move through English 101, the target class. So in all three cases, we, from the very beginning, made sure that we moved to scale all these up. ALP and ACLT are fully scaled. The math program is a little less fully scaled because of, I think, math anxiety and math fear, but we have moved that to a very significant level of scale as well. And the result has been literally over this 6-year period, literally thousands and thousands of additional students have successfully completed a target class as a result of this acceleration. This work and all of our work, of course, required not only close cooperation with our faculty, but with our colleagues in enrollment and student services. For all of my career, I've been a college professor or a dean or an academic vice president. I've always been on the instruction side. But I realized, and I think our president has been extremely astute about this as well, that if we were going to make big progress at CCBC, it would involve full cooperation between the Office of Instruction and the Office of Enrollment and Student Services. And our tremendous Vice President for Enrollment and Student Services, Rich Lilly, who modestly, as he always is sitting over there in the corner, has been our partner, my partner, in everything that we have done. We have planned everything together. We have implemented everything together. And to go forward as a college, I believe that those two areas in particular have to partner on everything if you're going to really move the needle. Our second major strategy is that we instituted a mandatory academic development class for all of our students. We had optional college orientation classes. Prior to that time, we'd mandated it for double developmental students, but not for most of our students. About 6 years ago, we decided we are going to completely change this. We think all of our students need an orientation class. We're going to figure out a way to force it into the curriculum for every single program. And we simply, after some considerable discussion with this and looking at our dropout rates and the inability of students to move successfully through the major, said to every one of the 140 programs at the college, you must build the ACDV class, 1-credit class, into your program, and it is mandatory for all incoming students who have no previous college success. So in a typical fall, we'll have about 4,500 students coming into the ACDV class. It's built into all of them. We have seen that it results in immediately in about a 10% gain in term-to-term retention, and that students who successfully complete the ACDV class, which about 70% do, are almost twice as likely to ultimately graduate from the college. So again, that partnership, which involves a direct partnership between people in the Office of Instruction side who teach it and advisors who participate in an embedded advising program within that course, that kind of cooperation has also been critical. Comprehensive academic advising for everybody. Vice President Lilly could certainly eloquently talk about this, but if you're serving a school that has 70,000 students and you've got 30,000 full-time or if you've got 30 full-time advisors and about 30 more part-time people, you have got to take dramatic and purposeful action to make sure that you get a comprehensive advising strategy. And working with our colleagues, working with as much faculty support as we could throw into the mix as well, we have developed a comprehensive academic advising program. It involves laboratories and degree work support and technology. It involves group advising, but it also involves a tremendous amount of individual one-on-one contact between faculty and advisors and students to make sure that they are being steered the right way. And typically, the advising office will have about 55,000 contacts with students in the course of a given semester. It's an incredible number, and it has an incredible impact on our outcomes. Students, as you can see from that survey, rate their experiences with the advising office extremely high, and that's a big change from what had been the situation prior to our interventions. And then finally, our culturally responsive teaching, which is a big component of our equity programs. We are today at CCBC a mostly minority college. On the credit side, about 53% of our enrollment are minorities. That has changed very rapidly over the last decade. I came in as vice president 8.5 years ago. We were about 1/3 minority at that time. Today we're about 53%. That's a rapid, dramatic change. Our biggest chunk, we're incredibly diverse, but about 85 to 90% of the minorities at CCBC are African Americans. We have more African American students at CCBC as undergraduates than any of the actually all 3 of the HCBUs in Baltimore combined in terms of undergraduate enrollment. So our impact in this area is very large, and if we do not address this equity issue and address it in the most energetic way, our student success efforts will fall flat, and we've seen that from the very beginning. So one of our key elements has been, and there was a panel presented on this the first day of the conference on Tuesday. There was sort of an all-afternoon session on this, but one of our main efforts is our culturally responsive teaching program. We've scaled this up now so that all incoming new faculty go through these 4 modules: race and culture, stereotype threat, mindsets, and social capital. We focus also as well on a targeted kind of financial literacy in the curriculum. Built into our student orientation class, but built into other classes, is a direct targeted kind of financial literacy. Not, how do you build your 403k, but how do you budget on a daily and weekly basis? What's the difference between taking out a paycheck loan on Friday to get through the next week? What's the difference between that and the interest rates you pay there and borrowing money so that you can further your education and get done as fast as possible? So it's a very practical kind of specialized literacy. We've also customized that ACDV class, the mandatory orientation class. We have built customized sections. This year we ran 20 customized sections for African American male students. And we did hold our first annual conference in September on culturally responsive teaching. So those 4 elements have been the main parts of Student Success 101. I think they have helped us to, as you heard President Kurtenitis say on Tuesday night, have helped us to increase our enrollment totals by over 55% over this time period. And that's happened at a time when our student body has changed very rapidly, has become much more diverse, much more economically poorer, and has brought with it greater developmental education needs and challenges than it's had ever before. So we feel great about it, and it was a team effort by the college as a whole. Thank you.
We're going to just... Thank you. We're going to come back to this later, and we're going to cede the podium to our colleagues.
Oh, great. All right, well, now we're going to head one state south to Virginia, and we're going to hear from Patrick Henry Community College, or as President Godwin called it, the little college that can, Tuesday night at the awards ceremony. I'd like to invite President Godwin and Greg Hodges, who is the Dean for Academic Success and College Transfer from the college, to talk about their work.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I gave Greg the clicker. I don't do 2 things at one time. Isn't this wonderful? We're so glad you're here. We thought that they might have actually named the session, So You Want to Be a Leah Meyer Austin Award Winner. I bet we have a whole lot of winners in this room, and we're very humbled to be here, Sandra, with you and your fabulous institution. I think it was actually Rachel Singer who first labeled Patrick Henry Community College as the little community college that can. We want you to understand where we drove the stake in the ground. I see Kent Farnsworth there. He keep me straight. Around one school. It's interesting that Patrick Henry Community College, this was faculty-led. And it has been faculty-driven. And I think one of the things we understand as the leadership team at the college, our job is to make sure that we feed and nurture that and do what we have to do. I consider myself to be the professional beggar of Patrick Henry Community College and the warrior too, to fight the battles, beg for the money, and try to continue to smooth out the ripples that our college may have and the challenges that it may actually have. This shows you a little bit about our community, our service area. We have the highest unemployment in Virginia and have had that now 6, 7+ years, actually going on a decade. But what you need to know that there was an era in the 1945 to 60s in which Martinsville, Virginia was the richest community in the Commonwealth of Virginia. More millionaires per capita, and the home of almost any furniture. If you go to your hotel room, Dr. Westover does this everywhere we travel. She pulls out the drawers. Her father was a furniture designer for American Furniture. It was probably made or designed in Martinsville, Virginia at some point in time. So it just goes to show us, because we're community colleges, when the temper of our colleges change, when in any shape and way that they may change, we have to mold and morph and change to them. And I think that is the heart of what Achieving the Dream is all about. That we have the courage and we have the wherewithal that whatever it throws at us, we respond, because our number one obligation are to our students. It is our mantra of our keeping our students first. And no matter how many awards we win, and no matter how many, don't y'all look like a county fair show pony up here? No matter how many ribbons we have around our neck, if our students are not successful, it is all in vain. It is not what we're here to do. So our dynamics can change. Very successful, but now unemployment. But the poverty of our community, I want you to listen to this. Their suffering was our gain. And that's tough too. But when the classrooms were full beyond capacity, and when the registration lines were wrapped around the building, and we couldn't find or beg, and I've only been there 2.5 years, so I'm telling you about what I've been in training, and I understand the dynamics. Because we benefited when a community suffered with job loss, extreme poverty, the Trade Act. Many of you know what the Trade Act was. People who really, they came to college for the right reason, the wrong reason. Coming to college was a way in lieu of a paycheck. It put bread on the table. And most of our furniture and textile workers, their educational level was about at the 8th grade. So they had already jumped many hurdles to get to us. And then the Virginia Employment Commission told them what they could take and how long they had to take it. And it was the only way they could continue to get a benefits check. That's the reality. So, no program and no project and no short-term, quick fix, the flavor of the day education would work. And if you don't hear anything else anyone has said at this conference, Achieving the Dream is not a program. It is not a project. It is not a cutesy little initiative. It's the fluoride in your water. It's how you change everything you do, the way you think about everything. It is complete change. It's like the blood that flows through our veins. We call it the DNA of our institution. We had a pretty heavy administrative turnover. Our president had been there for 34 years. I'm only the 3rd president of the college. We'd gone through a host of new vice presidents. And we had a generation in which, in fact, in our city public school system, which has lost over 50% of its population, 17% of those children in that city school system have never had any parent or any adult in their home to have ever have a job. 17% have never had a single job. So that is an entire cultural issue, but it's our issue. And so for those of you, and I think what's so beautiful about this is you have a large, powerful institution like the Community College of Baltimore County, and you have a small little institution in rural Virginia like Patrick Henry Community College. And we had the opportunity together to embrace a challenge, because the challenges are great, no matter small, large, whatever, and to work systemically over years. It's an iterative process to make a difference. And that's really what this award is all about. I do encourage you to do a couple things. I encourage you to learn to tell your stories and to capture them every day for yourselves. I can't imagine, we have some of our faculty here who've been on this from the beginning. They've been in the firing line from the beginning. And they have been trying to move the needle. Move the needle with sometimes just a piece of thread. And that is heavy lifting and tiring work. It's why it's almost as much of a ministry as it is a career that they've continued to do it. You need to learn to tell your stories for yourselves, because it's tiring. And sometimes we do great initiatives that we really put so much energy and we barely can see the needle tipping. So learn to tell the story. And I think that's what this award does. It helps to capture the story. Very much faculty-led, very much faculty-led. Our goal was 100%. Everybody, every faculty member.
I didn't do that. I'm positive I didn't do that to her.
You just want to know what I remember was on that slide. It had to be 100%. And here's the focus. Our focus was pedagogical, cooperative learning, every faculty member trained, every faculty member measured and evaluated on the infusion of cooperative learning. And Grace's going to tell you a little more about cooperative learning. And even our adjuncts, and it became a part of what we did. As I mentioned this morning in one of our sessions, and the data, the Achieving the Dream data became the driver. We have a data summit at our college. If you don't have one, I encourage you to go home and do it. It'll be a little painful the first year. It'll be priceless after then, which everybody gets to share their data. And I think in the first years, it was completely an Achieving the Dream data set. Today, thanks to Jackie and Kent and our Achieving the Dream drivers that helped us so much, it is really, people sign up early. I mean, we fill up the roster. They want to get up and talk about their data, even if the data shows where we're failing, even if the data shows where we're not being successful. Because once you put the data on the table, it becomes a part of everybody's challenge, but it also becomes a part of everybody's victory. And we're finding these collisions of thinking where it's almost like a crime scene. You know, that little spot over there, and that little spot over there, and that little spot over there, and this little item over here. And individually, they look so innocent and maybe not related. But when you get people who care, who have really passion, this is our life's work, this is what we're on this earth to do, you put them together with the data, and magical things happen. You can start figuring out things you could not figure out before. We have expanded. It was the heart of our Catalyst Fund to take this to the distance learning environment. I'm very proud that the administration got on board from the beginning. Our job is to make sure this work is secure and moves forward. And about 2 years ago, shortly after I got there, we had a real budget revelation. We've lost 27% of our enrollment. Our state funding, as many of you know, has plummeted. We were almost 70% in like 2008, and we're like 38%. And some of you are saying, I'd love to have 38%. Be glad to do that. We've gone from being state funded to state assisted, and we're moving on to state located. But I'm so proud that our vice presidents and deans, realizing that our faculty was carrying such a heavy, heavy burden. They had taken the hits of retirements and downsizing and layoffs, so that we had taken such hits, that our administration, our vice presidents and deans stepped up and said that they would, at no additional pay, they're all teaching at least one class per semester. Now that's done two things, and I'm not suggesting that for everybody. But in our college, number one, it changed the conversation. It's not about your students in your class, it's about our students in our classes. And we understand better the heavy load that our faculty, students with so many challenges have. And it's not just their academics, we know it's everything, from lunch money to how am I going to get to school? All those other life complications. I just say that to say this, that leadership has nothing to do with your title. It's the least important thing. We started a strategic leadership cabinet. We meet 10 times a year. It's first come, first served. The first 15 people, I don't care if you mow the grass or you're the vice president of something. I don't care what your job is. And for about 2 or 3 hours, 30 hours over the course of the year, we talk about leadership. And we have a presidential student leadership cabinet. And every Friday morning, we have a group of students in the office, and they're talking about how do we lead the other students on this campus? How do we lead ourselves in this community? What can we do? We need that desperately in our community. We will not survive really without it. But here's the most magic part. The little college that can has now trained over 120 colleges in the last 4 years. So, if you're doing wonderful things in your little town, in your little college, in your little part of the world, you need to get that light out under that bushel and go tell other people about it. It would be wonderful, all the fabulous things our SCORE Institute team and all these wonderful faculty and folks at Patrick Henry, it was wonderful they did it just in Martinsville, Henry County, Patrick County, in Southern Virginia. But the fact that it's touched the whole country is priceless. And I'm so proud that we trained the Community College of Baltimore County, and Baltimore, your college, trained us. Now that is very, very powerful. I'm going to let Greg tell you about all the really important stuff. But we're honored to be here. Greg Hodges, he is really a leader among all leaders for us, and we are really so privileged to have him here. He's known among all the Achieving the Dream circles as being the guy that just gets it done.
Thank you, Dr. Godwin. I also, in addition to my work at the college, I pastor a church, and I have this innate need now to bring the ushers down and pass the plate, a crowd this big. I know you think she was the preacher, but nonetheless, I want to share with you some quick data that I think highlights what we've done through cooperative learning. And Dr. Godwin mentioned this, why we chose cooperative learning in 2004. We had a whole team of administrators that were our predecessors. Dr. Godwin mentioned the high administrative turnover. I want you to understand what we mean by that. In 4 years, we had a new president, 4 out of 4 new vice presidents, so every vice president, and 3 out of 4 deans, all turned over in 4 years. So that meant that the team that created our Achieving the Dream work had all retired, moved on, or left, and we have a brand new team now trying to implement that Achieving the Dream work. And I think we all understand that it could have all died on the vine when they all walked out, or when they all retired. So it is a credit, I think, to the administration who said we're going to keep students' success first, and that means the Achieving the Dream work goes full throttle. We chose cooperative learning because of low SESI scores and student engagement way back in 2003. And one of the great aha moments for us as an institution, and for me when I moved over from elementary ed into higher ed, was the percentage of higher ed faculty who have zero pedagogy at all. And as we've traveled, and I see so many heads nodding, as we've traveled the country teaching other faculty how to do cooperative learning, it continues to astound us of the simple reality that we hire faculty and we throw them in the deep end of the pool and then get upset with them when they begin to sink. And the reality is, if we don't teach them how to teach, we will never move the needle of student success, and this light that is shining so brightly on us now will very quickly dim, and we will no longer be able to strike while that proverbial iron is hot. So I want to share with you just a little bit of data on our 3-year graduation credential attainment. Dr. Godwin mentioned, and as was mentioned on Tuesday night, we've experienced more than 100% growth in our graduation attainment rates. And that may sound really impressive, but what the reality is that they were extremely low to begin with. They were extremely low to begin with. Now, one of the things I do want to mention the fact is, in case you can't see, the next to last column there is the percentage of non-Pell students, and then the far right column is the percentage of Pell students. And our Pell-eligible students, our low-income students now, are graduating and transferring at higher rates than our more wealthier counterparts, which is something that we didn't expect, frankly. I show you this because this to me is extremely powerful. And I grabbed this simply right off our Achieving the Dream template. I went straight to the Achieving the Dream data site and grabbed this. And I don't so much want you to we are the top point there, the top line. And what I want you to understand is that our completion transfer rate dove. Does everybody see that? We did not see immediate gains. We did not see cooperative learning making dramatic input or dramatic impact immediately. And this is so critical because if you're going to move mountains, you don't do it overnight. If you're going to change the dynamic of the classroom, it will not happen overnight. It could have been so simple for our administration to say, well, whoa, 4 years now, we're declining. Something cannot be right with this. And it took a great deal of courage for us to say, we're going to stick at this because we know this is the right thing to do. We know this is the right thing to do. And what we saw was a nice turnaround. Let me move quickly. Dr. Godwin has alluded to this. We've now trained 122 colleges over the last 4 years. Trained them in what? Trained them in cooperative learning. How to make that classroom into a dynamic, inviting environment, and we're replicating that into the online platform because we all understand that if we only do the face-to-face, we're going to lose a large chunk of our students, and I want to give a shout-out to this as well. 100% of our faculty are trained. It's a requirement in the job description. It is a requirement in the evaluation process, and that all came from the faculty. And now 80% of our adjunct are trained. If you're an adjunct at Patrick Henry and you want to come back next semester, you got to be trained and you got to implement. We found out early on that only doing full-time would leave the greatest 70% of our classrooms untouched. So it was a requirement. And then a diminishing success gap between white students and African American students has already been alluded to by CCBC, taking a hard look at the data and not pointing fingers and not laying responsibility, but saying, look, there's a success gap in Gateway English. That course that opens up to the psych and the social and the history. There's a success gap between the white students and the African American students, and we're not laying blame. We're not saying whose fault it is. We're owning it, and here's what we're going to do to fix it, and then tracking those results. And then quickly, some lessons learned from Patrick Henry, and then we'll turn it over to questions, I believe. Number one, pedagogy change has to be faculty-driven and administration-supported. And I'm going to say again, if we're ever going to really dynamically have huge results, it's going to happen in the classroom or it ain't going to happen. And at my church, I would say, can I get a witness? Because if we don't change what's happening in the classroom, we've never really changed anything. Our new administration has to be steeped in the student success movement. And as we've already seen, pedagogy change takes time. I applaud CCBC because doing something as radical as ALP, changing the curriculum, when we were in a DEI school, the Developmental Education Initiative, we said over and over and over, if we're going to move mountains, we got to change curriculum and we got to change pedagogy. And what you've seen with CCBC, with their ALP project, is a curriculum change. What you've seen with Patrick Henry is a pedagogy change. And I'm going to be honest, those are the things that will really drive results, I think, in this age of spotlight on higher ed. And then as Dr. Godwin said, leadership has nothing to do with your title. Boy, we've heard that over and over and over again at Patrick Henry. Thank you for being here. I think, Mary, we're going to have time for questions, so I'll turn it over to you.